The first thing Mariah Brooks noticed was a hush, like someone had reached up and turned the restaurant down with an invisible dial. Forks paused midair. A server froze beside a tray of sweating glasses. At the host stand, a young man in a crisp black vest stared past her shoulder as if the space she occupied was a stain he couldn't acknowledge. Mariah smoothed the sleeve of her blazer anyway, the way her mother had taught her. Keep your hands calm when the room is trying to make you shake. The scent of seared steak and lemon butter hung warm and expensive in the air. She'd chosen this place because her new client insisted on somewhere with class. She'd chosen it because she was tired of shrinking. Reservation for Brooks, she said, voice steady. The host's smile clicked into place. Bright, practiced, empty. His eyes dropped to the tablet, then flicked up, skimming her curls, her gold hoop earrings, the briefcase at her side. We don't have anything under that name. Mariah leaned in, tilting her phone so he could see the confirmation email. The screen light cut a pale rectangle across his face. His jaw tightened. Yeah, I see it. He tapped the tablet once, twice. Too hard. Then he lowered his voice as if sharing a secret that would keep the peace. Look, ma'am, we're fully booked for our members tonight. Mariah felt heat climb her neck. It says public dining. 7:30. Behind him, a white couple strolled in laughing. No reservation, and the host straightened like a man called to duty. Right this way, he said to them, then glanced back at Mariah and delivered the knife line without blinking. You should try somewhere that fits. Mariah heard the click of a phone connecting and realized it wasn't for her table. Mariah Brooks stood at the host stand with her phone glowing in her palm and her stomach doing that slow, cold roll it did when the world decided she was too much for a doorway. 7:30, she said. Under Brooks. It's confirmed. The host, Evan, according to the name tag, kept his smile like a shield. We don't have it. Behind her, her client Dana Whitaker shifted, all perfume and impatience. Mariah, it's fine. We can go somewhere else. Mariah didn't turn. No, we're here. Evan's eyes dropped to the email on Mariah's screen. His fingers tapped the tablet too hard. Ma'am, this is a members-only night. It's a public restaurant, Mariah said. And your website says members get priority seating, not total control. Evan's jaw flexed. That's policy. Show me, Mariah replied. Print it or pull it up. A white couple slid in behind them, laughing, no phone out, no confirmation ready. Evan's face transformed. Good evening. Welcome back. He reached for menus. Table for two? The woman smiled. We didn't make a reservation. No problem at all, Evan said, already stepping from behind the stand. Right this way. Mariah's voice cut clean through the moment. Excuse me, you just said you were fully booked. Evan froze. They're members. Dana's eyes widened. Are you serious? Evan leaned closer to Mariah, lowering his voice into something meant to sound reasonable. Ma'am, I'm trying to help you. This isn't the place for conflict. Mariah stared at him. Conflict? I'm asking for my reservation. His gaze flicked over her. Hair, skin, blazer, briefcase, then settled on her face like a verdict. You should try somewhere that fits. For a second, Mariah couldn't breathe. Then she did. Slow, controlled. She turned her phone slightly, angling the camera toward the host stand. Dana whispered, Oh my God. Mariah said, What did you just say to me? Evan blinked fast. I didn't. You did, Mariah said, and you're being recorded. The air shifted. A nearby laugh died mid-note. Evan's cheeks flushed. You can't record employees. In a public-facing business? Mariah asked. Try again. He reached under the stand. I'm getting my manager. Please do, Mariah said, and pull up the policy you claimed exists. Dana's hand touched Mariah's elbow, gentle but shaky. Mariah, I don't want trouble. Mariah looked at her. Trouble found us, she said. We just walked in. A tall woman in an apron approached, silver hair pinned tight, glasses on a chain. She didn't smile. I'm Carla Hensley, manager on duty. Mariah lifted her phone. Hi, Carla. I have a reservation. Your host told me it doesn't exist. then told me I don't fit. Carla's eyes flicked to Dana, then back. We're at capacity, Dana blurted. But you just seated a couple without a reservation. Carla's mouth tightened. Those guests are long-standing members. Mariah kept her voice even. Show me the policy that allows you to cancel confirmed reservations for non-members. Carla's gaze hardened. This is private property. If you're unhappy, you can leave. Mariah nodded once. So you're refusing service. I'm ending this conversation, Carla said. End it on the record. Mariah replied. Say it clearly. Carla's eyes snapped at the phone. Turn that off. No, Mariah said. Say it. Carla's voice went flat. We will not be seating you tonight. Because I'm not a member, Mariah said. Because we're at capacity, Carla corrected. Mariah glanced toward the bar where empty stools sat like unanswered questions. Sure. Carla's tone sharpened. If you don't leave, I'll call security. Dana's voice cracked. Mariah, please. Mariah's skin prickled. Security. The word always carried extra weight when it was aimed at her. Call them. Mariah said, call whoever you need. I'd love to have a full record. Carla pulled a phone from her apron pocket, thumb already moving. Last warning. The line rang. Mariah's heart hammered, but her hand stayed steady. In the host stand's glossy reflection, she saw herself, chin up, eyes bright, refusing to disappear. Then Carla spoke into phone, and the words made the room tilt. Hi, she said, suddenly smiling like this was routine. I need an officer to the front. We have a situation. Dana's nails dug into her clutch. An officer? For this. Mariah raised her voice, clear. My name is Mariah Brooks. I have a confirmed reservation. I'm being refused service, and the manager is calling police instead of honoring it. The front doors opened with a rush of cold air. 2 officers stepped in. One was older, eyes tired. The other was younger, scanning faces like he was hunting for trouble. Carla moved fast. Thank you. She won't leave. Mariah held up her phone. Officer, I'm leaving. I'm asking why I'm being denied service after confirmed reservation. The younger officer's gaze locked on the screen. Turn that off. No, Mariah said. It's for my safety. Private property, he snapped. They're asking you to go. I will, Mariah replied. But I want your name and badge number, and I want it on record that I was called a situation for requesting my reservation. The older officer glanced toward the bar stools, then back at Carla. The younger officer stepped closer. ID, he ordered. Mariah's pulse thudded. She slid her wallet out slowly and held it up. Before I hand this over, she said, am I being detained, or are you helping them turn discrimination into policy? The sidewalk outside the restaurant was colder than Mariah expected, the night air slicing through her blazer as the doors shut behind them with a decisive thump. The neon sign hummed overhead, indifferent. Dana exhaled hard. Mariah, why couldn't you just... She stopped, pressed her palms together. I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm saying you scared them. Mariah stared at the reflection in the dark glass. Her face looked calm there. Professional. The version everyone preferred. I didn't scare them, she said. I made them uncomfortable. That's the same thing to people with power, Dana replied, especially when police are involved. Across the sidewalk, the younger officer lingered, hand resting near his belt like a habit he didn't question. The older officer stood a few steps back, posture looser, eyes moving, not just watching Mariah, but the empty bar stools inside, the staff pretending to clean the same spot twice. Ma'am, the younger officer said, voice clipped, we asked for your ID. Mariah held it between 2 fingers. I asked whether I'm being detained. You're being asked to leave, he said. Which I am, Mariah replied, nodding toward the curb. I'm also documenting why. Dana leaned in, urgent. Please, just give it to him. Let's go. We have donors flying in tomorrow. Mariah finally looked at her. Dana's eyes were bright with fear, not for Mariah, but for consequences that had names and bank accounts. Do you hear yourself? Mariah asked softly. You're telling me to comply, so they'll stop. Dana swallowed. I'm telling you how the world works. Mariah handed over her ID. The plastic felt suddenly heavy, like it carried more than a name. The younger officer scanned it, his expression tightening. "You need to turn off the recording," he said. "No," Mariah replied. "It's legal." The older officer cleared his throat. "It is," he said, "in this state." The younger officer shot him a look. "Sir, we're trying to de-escalate." Mariah let out a short laugh. "By escalating?" "Watch your tone," the younger officer snapped. "My tone," Mariah repeated. "I'm standing still." Carla hovered in the doorway, arms crossed. "Are they leaving?" "They are," the younger officer said, eyes still on Mariah. "After we get this sorted." Sorted meant paperwork. Sorted meant a story that would be written, without her, unless she forced her way into it. "Officer," Mariah said, turning to the older one, "can you tell me why you were called?" The older officer hesitated. "We were told there was disturbance." "What kind?" Mariah asked. He glanced toward Carla, a refusal to leave. "And before that?" Mariah pressed. "What did they say I did?" Silence stretched. Carla's jaw set. The older officer shifted his weight. "The call mentioned a guest recording staff and causing a scene." Mariah nodded. "So not threatening, not violent." "No," he admitted. Dana whispered, "Mariah?" Mariah took a breath. "I'd like both your badge numbers, please." The younger officer bristled. "Why?" "So when I request body cam footage," Mariah said evenly, "I know which file to ask for." The older officer met her gaze, something like respect flickering there. He recited his number. The younger officer followed, stiff and irritated. Mariah repeated the numbers aloud, capturing them on her phone. Then she slipped her ID back into her wallet. "We're leaving," she said, "but I'm filing a complaint." Carla scoffed. "About what?" Mariah turned to her. "About you calling the police instead of honoring a reservation. About your host telling me I don't fit. About turning a question into a threat." Carla's smile was thin. "Good luck." The doors closed again, this time behind the officers. Dana sagged onto the low concrete planter, hand shaking. "Do you know what this could do to us?" Mariah stood beside her, looking up at the glowing sign. "I know what doing nothing does to me." They drove in silence. The city lights blurred past, red and white streaks like nerves firing too fast. When Dana finally spoke, her voice was small. "I can't fight donors and police and restaurants all at once." "I didn't ask you to," Mariah said. "Yes, you did," Dana replied, "by not backing down." At home, Mariah kicked off her shoes and sat on the floor, back against the couch. She opened her laptop, hands steady now, and began creating folders. Screenshots of the reservation email, the restaurant's website, the time-stamped video, notes typed cleanly without adjectives. Facts don't need decoration, her mother used to say. She filled out the online complaint form. The questions were polite, distant. When she hit submit, an auto response landed in her inbox within seconds. "Thank you for your feedback." It felt like being patted on the head. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number. I saw what happened tonight." Mariah's pulse quickened. She typed back, "Mariah, who is this?" "Unknown number. I work there. I recorded from behind the bar." They've done this before. Mariah stared at the message. The room suddenly too quiet. "Unknown number. I don't want my name out, but I don't want to stay silent either." Mariah closed her eyes, the weight of the night settling into her bones. Compliance had always been sold as safety, silence as professionalism. She typed carefully, "Mariah, thank you. If you're willing, we can talk. On your terms." The typing dots appeared, disappeared. Then, "Unknown number, tomorrow?" Mariah looked at the folder on her screen, at the word she typed at the top. "Receipts. Mariah, tomorrow works." She set the phone down and leaned her head back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. The fear was still there. The cost, too. But so was the truth. It was louder than before. Mariah chose the cafe because it was loud. Steam hissed from the espresso machine. Cups clinked. A playlist thumped low and steady. Noise that wrapped around conversations and made them feel less exposed. She sat at a small table near the back, laptop closed, phone face down, hands folded like she was waiting for a verdict. The door chimed. A woman stepped in, early 20s maybe, hair pulled into a tight bun, eyes scanning the room like exits mattered more than menus. She spotted Mariah and hesitated. "Tessa?" Mariah asked, keeping her voice gentle. Tessa nodded and slid into the chair opposite her, shoulders tense. "I can't stay long." "That's okay," Mariah said. "Thank you for coming at all." Tessa wrapped her hands around a paper cup she hadn't ordered yet. "I've never done this. Talking to lawyers? Media? We don't have to decide any of that today," Mariah said. "You reached out because you saw something wrong." Tessa swallowed. "I saw it happen before." Mariah didn't interrupt. "They call it members' nights," Tessa continued, "but it's not on the schedule. It's just when certain people are in town. Donors, city people. The manager tells us to be selective." "Selective how?" Mariah asked. Tessa's mouth twisted. "You know how." Mariah nodded once. "What did you record?" Tessa hesitated, then pulled out her phone. Her thumb shook as she opened a video. The angle was crooked, half blocked by bottles and glassware, but the audio was clear. Evan's voice, somewhere that fits. Carla's voice, brisk and polished. "Call it in." Mariah closed her eyes for a second, then opened them. "Thank you." Tessa watched her carefully. "You're not crying." "I already did," Mariah said. "Last night, this morning, in the shower." Tessa let out a breath she'd been holding. "Good." They sat with it. The noise, the truth, the hum of witnesses who didn't know they were witnessing anything at all. "I need to ask," Mariah said. "Did Carla instruct you to do anything specific?" Tessa nodded. "She told us to watch for problems." That's her phrase. Anyone who records. Anyone who asks too many questions. Anyone who doesn't look like they belong. Mariah's jaw tightened. "Did she say that after I arrived?" "No," Tessa said. "Before, when she saw your name on the list." Mariah felt the floor shift beneath that sentence. "She saw my name." Tessa nodded. She asked Evan to verify. Then she told him to stall. Mariah opened her laptop. Not to type, yet, but to anchor herself. "I'm going to ask you something difficult," she said. "You don't owe me an answer." Tessa's eyes flicked to the door. "Okay. Are you willing to share this video with my attorney?" Tessa's shoulders hunched. "Will my name be public?" "No," Mariah said immediately. "Not unless you want it to be." "And my job—" Mariah didn't lie. "I can't promise there won't be retaliation, but retaliation is illegal, and my attorney can advise you." Tessa stared into her cup. "Illegal doesn't mean impossible." "No," Mariah said. "It means documented." Tessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I'm tired pretending I didn't see it." Mariah exhaled slowly. "Okay, one step at a time." They exchanged contact information. Tessa left quickly, disappearing into the crowd like she'd never been there at all. Mariah stayed. Her phone buzzed Dana. "Dana." Board meeting just ended. Mariah waited. "Dana." "They're concerned about optics." Mariah closed her eyes. "Mariah." "Of course they are." "Dana." "They think the video paints us as confrontational." "Us." Mariah typed, deleted, typed again. Mariah. "Does us include me being denied service?" 3 dots. Gone. 3 dots again. "Dana." "They want to issue a statement distancing the organization from the incident." Mariah felt something tear. Not loudly, not dramatically, but cleanly, like fabric giving way along a seam that had been weakening for years. Mariah. "So you'll protect the institution." "Dana." "I'm trying to protect the work." Mariah stared at the words until they blurred. Then she replied. "Mariah, the work doesn't exist without people." Dana didn't respond. The cafe noise felt thinner now. Mariah packed up and stepped outside, the afternoon light too bright, too honest. She walked without direction until her phone buzzed again. Jordan this time. Jordan saw the clip online. "You okay?" Mariah laughed, sharp. "Sure." They met on a park bench an hour later. Jordan listened without interrupting, eyes dark with anger. They want you quiet, Jordan said when Mariah finished. They always do. I know, Mariah replied. I just didn't expect Dana to hand them the pen. Jordan leaned forward. So, don't let them write the story. I don't want viral, Mariah said. Viral burns out. Then build something sturdier, Jordan said. Patterns. Proof. Mariah nodded. I'm already there. That night, she opened her laptop again. The folder glowed on the screen. Receipts. She added subfolders. Timeline. Witnesses. Policies. Police. She requested the restaurant's written policies. Again, she drafted a formal request for surveillance footage. She outlined questions, not accusations. Her phone buzzed with notifications, likes, comments. Strangers arguing over her tone, her posture, her right to be angry. She muted them all. Around midnight, an email landed from the restaurant's legal counsel. Polite, dismissive, dense with words that said nothing. We deny any wrongdoing, miscommunication. Regret any discomfort. Mariah smiled without humor. Discomfort, as if dignity were a cushion that had been fluffed wrong. She forwarded the email to Leah Grant. Subject line, they blinked first. Then she closed the laptop and lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought of Tessa, of Dana, of the older officer's pause, of how many people saw the truth and chose different exits. The folder wasn't just proof anymore. It was a map. Leah Grant's office smelled like old books and fresh coffee, a contradiction Mariah found comforting. Framed certificates lined one wall. The other held a corkboard cluttered with timelines, arrows, and handwritten notes that looked like arguments mid-thought. Leah listened without interrupting. That, more than anything, steadied Mariah. When Mariah finished, Leah folded her hands. This is clean, she said. Not easy, but clean. Mariah let out a breath. Clean doesn't mean safe. No, Leah agreed. It means provable. Leah slid a yellow legal pad across the desk. First step, preservation letters, surveillance footage, staff schedules, internal communications tied to members' nights. We put them on notice, so nothing accidentally disappears. And the police? Mariah asked. Leah's mouth tightened. We request body cam footage and call logs. Expect delays. Because of the way I was labeled, Mariah said. Because of the way the system protects itself. Leah replied. They drafted letters together. Precise, restrained, impossible to misread. Leah's language felt like armor. Each sentence weighed and sharpened. By the time Mariah left, she felt lighter and heavier all at once. Her phone buzzed before she reached the elevator. Dana, can we talk? In person. They met in the nonprofit's glass-wall conference room. Sunlight pouring in like transparency theater. Posters about equity smiled from the walls. Dana clasped her hands. The board is nervous. Mariah nodded. You already told me. They think you're moving too fast, Dana continued. That legal action escalates things. Escalation already happened, Mariah said. They called the police. Dana winced. They're worried about donor relationships. Of course they are. Dana leaned forward. They want to pause your contract. Temporarily. Mariah laughed once. Pause is a nice word. It's not punishment, Dana insisted. It's protection. For who? Mariah asked. Dana didn't answer. I didn't provoke anything, Mariah said. I existed and asked a question. I know, Dana said softly, but perception is curated by people with power. Mariah finished. I thought this organization understood that. Dana's eyes filled. I'm trying to keep the doors open. Mariah stood. Not if they only open for some people. Outside, Mariah sat in her car until the shaking stopped. The restaurant's lawyer replied that afternoon. The email was immaculate. Warm regret without responsibility. Phrases like unfortunate misunderstanding and no evidence of discriminatory intent stacked neatly like bricks in a wall. Leah called within minutes. They're testing you, she said, seeing if polish makes you doubt yourself. It doesn't, Mariah said. Good, because next they'll suggest mediation with an NDA. Mariah's stomach twisted. Silence or peace. Silence or convenience, Leah corrected. The police department was worse. Mariah spent an hour being transferred between extensions, each voice cheerful, each answer evasive. When she finally reached records, the clerk sighed. Body cam requests can take up to 90 days, the clerk said. 90? Mariah repeated. This happened 2 nights ago. Yes, ma'am. And the incident report? Filed, the clerk said. You can request it. When it arrived, the language felt foreign. Subject was uncooperative, refused to comply promptly. Manager expressed concern for staff safety. Mariah's hands trembled. This isn't what happened. Leah's voice was calm. It's what they wrote. We respond with facts. That evening, Mariah met Jordan and Tessa in a quiet corner of a bookstore cafe. Tessa looked smaller, eyes darting. They cut my shifts, Tessa said business was slow. Jordan's jaw clenched. That's retaliation. It's plausible deniability, Tessa replied. Same thing, different font. Mariah reached across the table. I'm so sorry. I knew it might happen, Tessa said. I just didn't think it would be this fast. Leah joined by speakerphone. Tessa, document everything, she said gently. Schedules, comments, dates. Don't confront them alone. After they hung up, Tessa stood. I can't stay long. They're watching. When she left, the door chimed like an ending. Late that night, Mariah's phone buzzed with a new message from a number she didn't recognize. Unknown. This is Officer Reynolds. The older one. Mariah sat up. Reynolds. I can't speak officially, but the report doesn't match what I observed. Mariah's pulse spiked. What did you observe? A pause. Reynolds. Empty seats. No threat. Manager pushing for trespass. Mariah typed carefully. Would you be willing to say that in a statement? Another pause. Longer. Reynolds. If requested through proper channels. It wasn't bravery, but it was a crack. By midnight, Mariah felt the cost pressing in. Her contract paused. Her name debated. A witness punished. A report rewritten. Justice didn't slam doors. It smiled and asked you to wait. Mariah opened her laptop one more time. The folder glowed. Receipts. She added a new document. Pattern. Because a single door closing could be denied. But patterns? Patterns told the truth, whether anyone liked it or not. Mariah woke to her phone, vibrating like it was trying to escape the nightstand. She didn't need to look to know what it was. The glow of notifications lit the ceiling, messages, tags, missed calls stacking into something that felt less like attention and more like weather. Jordan's name flashed first. Jordan, it's everywhere. Mariah sat up and opened the clip. 38 seconds. Her voice calm. Evan's line, somewhere that fits, clear as a bell. Carla's clip call it in. The younger officer telling her to turn it off. The comments scrolled too fast to read as sentences. So professional. Why was she recording, though? This happens all the time. She's brave. She knew what she was doing. Mariah set the phone down, heart pounding. Viral felt like being lifted without consent. Her email chimed, then chimed again. By noon, the restaurant posted a statement. We strive to provide an inclusive environment for all guests. Any suggestion otherwise is deeply concerning to us. No apology, no acknowledgement. The comments underneath vanished and reappeared, scrubbed clean and repopulated with praise from accounts with no faces. They're moderating. Jordan said over speakerphone. Hard. They're controlling the narrative, Mariah replied. And failing, Jordan said. People are mad. Mad wasn't the same as accountable. Mariah knew that better than most. Leah called. Don't respond yet, she said. Let the noise settle. We speak once with documents. People want a reaction, Mariah said. They always do, Leah replied. They don't want justice. They want a moment. That afternoon, Dana showed up unannounced at Mariah's door. She looked exhausted. Mascara smudged. Hair pulled back too tight. I need you to say something, Dana said as soon as Mariah opened the door. Mariah stepped aside. Come in. Dana paced the living room. The board is panicking. Donors are calling. They think silence looks like guilt. Mariah crossed her arms. Silence is what they wanted from me 2 days ago. That was different, Dana said. How? Mariah asked. Dana stopped pacing. Because now it's public. Mariah nodded. Exactly. They want you to clarify that the organization isn't involved, Dana said. That this was a personal misunderstanding. Mariah laughed, a short, sharp sound. Personal? Dana's voice cracked. If we lose funding, people lose services. And if I lie, Mariah said, I lose myself. Dana sank onto the couch. You're asking me to choose. No, Mariah said gently. I'm asking you to tell the truth. Dana looked away. After she left, Mariah sat alone, the quiet buzzing with everything unsaid. That evening, Leah forwarded an email. Subject, media inquiry. Felix Harper wanted to talk. They met the next morning in a small newsroom conference room that smelled like ink and stale donuts. Felix was younger than Mariah expected. Sleeves rolled up, notebook already open. I'm not here for a hot take, Felix said. I'm here for a pattern. Mariah raised an eyebrow. Go on. The restaurant hosts private dinners for civic partners, Felix continued. Same nights as these so-called members' nights. I want to know who gets in and who doesn't. Mariah felt a chill. You think this isn't random? Felix smiled grimly. Nothing that organized ever is. She shared what she had. Reservation screenshots, Tessa's video, the lawyer's letter, the incident report language. Felix didn't interrupt, just wrote. This is solid, he said when she finished. But it's bigger than one place. Bigger than you. I know, Mariah said. Outside, protesters gathered for first time. Handwritten signs. Chants that blurred together. Across the street, a smaller group held countersigns about entitlement and law and order. Mariah watched from her window, stomach tight. She hadn't asked for this, but it had arrived anyway. Her phone buzzed. Tessa. Tessa! They pulled me into HR. Mariah's fingers flew. What did they say? Tessa, that I violated policy by recording. That my job depends on cooperation. Mariah closed her eyes. Did they mention me? Tessa, indirectly, said I shouldn't get involved in guest disputes. Mariah forwarded the messages to Leah. Leah replied, document. Do not sign anything. By nightfall, the clip hit national feeds. Commentators debated tone instead of facts. A pundit called Mariah articulate. Another questioned her intent. Jordan texted, they're dissecting you. Mariah typed back, they always do. She turned off the TV. At midnight, a longer statement from the restaurant dropped. This one hinted at aggressive behavior and disruption. It framed calling police as standard procedure. Mariah stared at the screen, a familiar anger rising. Not hot, but focused. She opened her laptop and added another folder. Public statements. Then another. Contradictions. Viral wasn't justice, but it was a spotlight, and in the light, lies cast shadows. Mariah began lining them up, one by one. Felix called it a dig day, which sounded almost playful until Mariah saw the spreadsheet. Rows of dates, columns of names, notes stacked with careful restraint. Fundraiser, civic dinner, private event. When Felix shared his screen, the pattern snapped into focus like a bruise finally showing color. Members' nights, Felix said, tapping the dates. Same evenings as these. Mariah leaned closer. City council receptions, permit celebrations, non-profit galas. Felix nodded, and the guest lists overlap. Mariah swallowed. With Dana's donors. With Dana's donors, Felix confirmed, and a few people who could make problems disappear. The room felt suddenly smaller. Mariah had known proximity to power came with compromise, but seeing it mapped made her chest ache. This isn't just a restaurant, she said. It's a gate. Felix's mouth tightened. Exactly. They worked in silence for an hour. Mariah pulled public records, event permits, campaign finance disclosures, zoning approvals. Felix cross-referenced social media photos, captions that brag without meaning to. There it was, smiling faces beneath chandeliers, plates identical to ones Mariah Never got a touch. Her phone buzzed. Tessa, they moved me to lunch shifts only. Mariah typed back immediately. Any explanation? Tessa, business needs. Mariah forwarded the message to Leah, then stared at the screen. They're squeezing her, she said aloud. Felix glanced up. You expected anything else? No, Mariah said. I just hate that it works. That afternoon, Mariah drove to the police station. Not for confrontation. She'd learned that lesson, but for process. She filled out forms. She waited. She was sent to another window. When she finally sat across from a sergeant, his smile was professional and impenetrable. Body cam footage is under review. By whom? Mariah asked. Internal Affairs, he said. And the incident report? Mariah pressed. It misrepresents what happened. He shrugged. Officers write what they observe. Mariah kept her voice steady. Then I'd like to submit a written addendum. The sergeant blinked. That's unusual. So was calling police on a woman asking for her reservation? Mariah replied. He hesitated, then slid a form across the desk. You can submit a statement. It wasn't justice, but it was ink. Outside, Mariah sat in her car and let the tension drain from her shoulders. The cost was accumulating. In hours, in sleep, in the way strangers now looked at her like they owned a piece of her story. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown. This is Reynolds. Mariah's heart jumped. Reynolds. I was asked about the call. Mariah typed carefully. What did you say? A pause. Reynolds. That there was no threat when we arrived. That the manager wanted a trespass warning. Mariah closed her eyes. Thank you. Another pause. Reynolds. That's all I can do. It wasn't courage, but it was a wedge. That evening, Mariah met Jordan on the steps of her apartment building. The sky was bruised purple, the city humming like it didn't know how to stop. You look tired, Jordan said. I am, Mariah replied, but I'm also angry in a useful way. Jordan smiled. That's my favorite version of you. They sat side by side, shoulders touching. Felix found connections, Mariah said. This isn't about etiquette. It's about access. Jordan nodded. So when they say policy, they mean permission? Exactly. Jordan hesitated. Dana called me. Mariah stiffened. What did she want? She's scared, Jordan said, and she's tried to decide which side of history costs less. Mariah looked out at the street. It always cost someone. Later that night, Leah called with an update. The restaurant offered mediation, she said. Mariah laughed softly. Already? With an NDA, Leah added. There it is. They'll frame it as generosity, Leah continued. A chance to move forward. Move forward without changing anything, Mariah said. Yes, Leah replied. So the question is, what do you want? Mariah thought of Tessa's cut shifts, of Dana's glass-walled office, of the way the younger officer's hand hovered near his belt like instinct. I want it documented, Mariah said. I want it structural. I want it harder for the next person. Leah smiled through the phone. Then we keep going. After midnight, Mariah sat at her desk, the glow of her laptop painting the room in pale light. She opened the pattern document and added a new section. Network. Names appeared. Lines connected. Not accusations. Relationships. She paused, fingers hovering. This was the part they warned you about. When the story stopped being about one bad moment and started touching things people protected. Her phone buzzed one last time. Dana, they want me to publicly distance myself. Mariah stared at the message. The final illusion cracked. She typed back slowly. Mariah, I understand. Dana, I wish it were different. Mariah set the phone face down. Wishing had never changed structures. She saved the document and leaned back, exhaustion pressing in. The network was real. The costs were real. But so was a record. And records, once made, had a way of surviving the people who tried to erase them. Mariah walked into the nonprofit's conference room, the morning sun cutting through the blinds in neat, judgmental lines across the polished table. Posters about community equity smiled down from the walls, and she felt a cold twist of irony. This was a space that promised change, but now felt like a trap. Dana was already there, sitting stiffly at the head of the table. Mariah noticed a tension in her jaw, the way her hands clutched the pen like it might hold her together. A glass of water sweated onto the polished surface. "They want to meet," Dana said immediately. Her voice carried that practiced calm that almost made Mariah angry. "Board members, 3 of them. They'll explain the offer." Mariah folded her arms. "I don't need explanations. I need truth." Dana's shoulders slumped. "It's not personal. They just want to protect the organization." "Protect the organization?" Mariah asked, voice rising just enough to shake the carefully neutral room. "By asking me to stay silent after I was denied service? By asking me to let a manager and officers rewrite the story?" Dana sighed. "The board is worried about optics. Donors are calling. Media attention, it's bad for fundraising." Mariah leaned forward. "Optics? You mean profits? And you're saying I should comply?" "That's not exactly what I'm saying," Dana replied. "I'm saying if you sign the agreement, if you take the settlement, we can move forward." Mariah's stomach clenched. "Move forward?" With my voice erased. Dana's eyes flicked away. "It's a strategic pause. Nothing personal. Just strategy." Mariah felt something harden inside her. Strategy. She repeated the word, tasting it like ash. "You mean betrayal?" Dana flinched, the color draining from her face. "It's complicated," she whispered. "It's simple," Mariah said. "I walk in. I ask for what's mine. I'm called a situation. I'm denied service. You asked me to stay quiet to protect the very system that tried to erase me." Dana's hand trembled over her glass. "I'm trying to survive," she said. "Your survival doesn't require mine," Mariah said. Her voice was steady, iron-lined. "It never has, and it never should." Dana's lips pressed together. She looked away, then back at the table, eyes shining with unshed tears. "If you take this public, if you refuse—" "You mean if I insist on truth?" Mariah asked sharply. "Yes. I refuse to be complicit. Yes, I refuse to erase myself for convenience. Yes, I will take this public." Dana shook her head slowly. "You don't understand the cost." "I understand more than you think," Mariah replied. "I understand what it feels like to be a professional whose competence is constantly questioned. I understand what it feels like to be told my presence is a problem. I understand that the people who benefit from this silence will never explain it." Silence fell. Only the hum of the air conditioning filled the space. Dana looked small, fragile, and for a moment, Mariah almost wished for her to be on the right side. Almost. "I'll sign nothing," Mariah said finally. "I'll cooperate with my lawyer. I'll talk to media only when I'm ready. But I will not sign away my dignity. I will not let the restaurant or the board write the story without me." Dana's hands fell into her lap. "You're asking me to choose sides," she said quietly. "I'm asking you to tell the truth," Mariah replied. Dana shook her head. "I can't." Mariah's chest tightened. She rose from the table. "Then you made your choice." She walked toward the door, each step leaving echoes of resolve behind her. Outside the conference room, she paused. The hall was empty, sunlight splintering against the walls like shards of clarity. She exhaled, slow and deliberate, back in her apartment that evening. Mariah opened her laptop and updated the receipts folder. New subfolders, board correspondence, donor interactions, nonprofit optics. Every document, email, message, and phone transcript had a place. Patterns were emerging now, not isolated incidents, but a network. Her phone buzzed with a new message. Tessa, I'm scared. They're watching. HR followed me around today." Mariah typed immediately, "Document everything. I'll make sure you're protected. You're not alone." The reply came almost instantly. "Thank you." Mariah leaned back. The weight of Tessa's fear pressed against her chest. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about a chain of people, staff, witnesses, bystanders, being forced to navigate a system built to control them. Her laptop pinged again. Felix. The restaurant's pattern extends further. Private dinners, city officials, donors, and selective enforcement. This is bigger than we imagined. Mariah stared at the screen. Bigger meant dangerous. Bigger meant accountability would take longer, but also that the impact would be wider. She added a new folder, network map, lines connected names, dates, events, influence, a visual web of control of who got in and who got left out. She leaned back and studied it, her jaw tight. Every name a gatekeeper, every event a checkpoint in a system designed to exclude people like her. Her phone buzzed again. Dana, Dana, board wants me to publicly distance myself from your action. Mariah read the message, heart tightening. No apology, no support, only distance. She typed carefully, I understand. Dana, I wish it were different. Mariah set the phone aside. Wishing never changed structures. Only action did. She opened a pattern document, cross-referencing the restaurant, the board, and the network Felix had uncovered. Every inconsistency, every policy gap, every silent witness. Cataloged, time-stamped, ready to challenge the story being told without her. By midnight, she felt the exhaustion press against her bones. Sleep was close but elusive. The betrayal was fresh in her veins, bitter and bright. Yet beneath it all, beneath fear, fatigue, and frustration, there was something stronger, resolve. Mara typed one last line in the network folder. Bold, clear, unflinching. Truth will outlast denial. And for the first time in days, she allowed herself to believe it. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and faint disinfectant. The walls were neutral, beige, almost antiseptic, like they were designed to make emotion invisible. Mariah adjusted the strap of her briefcase and stepped inside, Jordan at her side, silent but steady. The hearing room was smaller than she expected. A long table ran the length, chairs on either side. Lawyers in dark suits murmured quietly, arranging papers and tapping at laptops. Behind them, a few seats were filled with reporters and onlookers who whispered in low tones. Leah handed Mariah a folder. Everything you need, she said. Keep calm. Speak facts. No emotion unless it's unavoidable. Document everything. Mariah nodded. Facts had been her armor since the restaurant. Tonight, they would have to be her sword as well. Carla Hensley, the manager, entered first, followed by her lawyer. Their smiles were bright, but brittle. Evan trailed behind, pale, shifting uncomfortably. Good afternoon, the judge said, voice even, neutral. We are here regarding the complaint of Mariah Brooks against Redacted Restaurant. Mariah's pulse quickened, but she kept her chin high. She remembered the look in Dana's eyes, the betrayal, the hesitation, and a cold determination settled over her. This wasn't about anyone else tonight. It was about the record. The restaurant's attorney opened first. Your Honor, we contend that Ms. Brooks was uncooperative and escalated the situation unnecessarily. Our client acted according to policy and in good faith to maintain the safety and order of their establishment. Mariah took a breath. Leah whispered, wait for your turn. Stick to evidence. When it was Mariah's moment, she rose. Your Honor, she began, voice steady despite the tightness in her chest. I am here because I was denied service despite a confirmed reservation. I was told I did not fit the establishment, then labeled a situation when I questioned that treatment. I have submitted emails, screenshots, and a recording taken by a staff member who wishes to remain anonymous. This evidence shows that the denial of service was not random, not a misunderstanding, but discriminatory behavior based on appearance. The lawyer tried to interject. Objection, argumentative. Leah raised her hand. Your Honor, this is testimony regarding documented events. The judge nodded. Mariah's folder felt heavier now, full of months of careful cataloging, of Tessa's recording, of screenshots and timestamps. She placed it on the table. I would like to call my witness, Leah said. Tessa and Gwen. Tessa stepped forward, hands trembling, voice tight. I was a server that night. I observed the manager instructing staff to be selective about which guests were seated, and to watch for anyone who might cause problems. Ms. Brooks did nothing threatening. She asked for a confirmed reservation. The denial of service and the manager's comments were discriminatory. The restaurant's attorney tried to discredit her. How do we know your observation wasn't biased? You admitted fear of losing your job. How can this testimony be impartial? Tessa's jaw tightened. Because I recorded it. The room went quiet. Even the hum of air conditioning seemed to stop. Next came Officer Reynolds, the older officer. "I was dispatched to the restaurant," he said. "The incident report submitted initially did not reflect what I observed. There was no threat when we arrived." The manager pushed for a trespass warning before we assessed the situation. Mariah felt a surge of relief and a pang of sorrow. Validation came with cost. The hearing stretched on for hours. The restaurant attorney tried repeatedly to twist phrasing, imply provocation, question tone. Leah dismantled each claim with evidence, timestamps, and cross-references. Every document Mariah had cataloged now became a building block, reinforcing the narrative of systemic abuse, selective enforcement, and denial. Outside, protesters had gathered. Chants and signs blurred against the windows. Some supported Mariah, some decrying her as overreacting. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. The noise felt both distant and pressing, a reminder that this was bigger than one reservation, one restaurant. Mara spoke again during cross-examination. "The claim of uncooperativeness is inaccurate. I provided my ID when requested. I asked questions calmly, and I documented interactions. Every action was factual, recorded, and lawful. The only escalation came from staff and management, not me." The restaurant's lawyer frowned. "Objection." Leah cut him off. "Your Honor, the facts are indisputable. Emails, recordings, and witness testimony corroborate Ms. Brooks' account." The judge nodded, scribbling notes. Outside the courtroom, Felix's camera crews captured the scene. The reporters, the police, the murmurs, the tension in Mariah's shoulders. At one point, Mariah closed her eyes for a fraction of a second. She saw Tessa's fear, Dana's hesitancy, the empty bar stools from that night, and a pattern that extended beyond her personal experience. She felt the weight of all the invisible people who had been silenced, dismissed, or warned to comply. Hours later, the testimony ended. The judge took a recess. Mariah returned to her seat, exhausted but resolute. She let herself breathe, aware that even small victories required endurance. Felix approached quietly. "That was precise," he said. "They can't argue with facts. Only spin." Mariah nodded. "Spin can't erase what's been documented. That's why it matters." Jordan put a hand on her shoulder. "You're doing more than fighting for yourself." "Yes," Mariah said, "but it still feels like a cost." Felix smiled faintly. "The public sees it. The patterns are visible now. The story isn't just a clip anymore, it's systemic." Mariah exhaled. "Systemic costs real people real risk. That doesn't end when the hearing ends." She glanced at her folder, the tabs carefully labeled. Receipts, pattern, network map, public statements. Each one a small armor. Each one a witness. Each one a record that couldn't be brushed aside. When the judge returned, the room fell silent. The tension was almost palpable. Mariah's pulse slowed to a rhythm of patience. The hearing was not a guarantee of justice, but it was the platform for accountability. She leaned back, hands folded in her lap, and let the weight of preparation, witness bravery, and meticulous documentation anchor her. Every carefully recorded fact, every aligned timestamp, every courageous voice had led to this moment. The judge cleared his throat. "The court will deliberate and issue findings at a later date. All parties are dismissed." Mariah rose, shoulders heavy but resolute. Outside, the sun had dipped low, painting the courthouse in gold and shadow. Reporters surrounded her, phones and cameras eager. She spoke with clarity, repeating facts, not emotion, letting the narrative speak for itself. The network, the restaurant, the patterns, they were no longer invisible. Mara stepped into the evening light, aware of the scars, the cost, and the resolve that would carry her forward. Justice was coming, but it would be measured, deliberate, and earned. The hearing had ended. The fight was far from over. The settlement came like sunlight after a storm, warm, illuminating, but not without leaving shadows behind. Mariah read the terms carefully, her hands steady despite exhaustion that pressed at her bones. The restaurant would pay fines, implement anti-discrimination training, and document new procedures for public and members-only dining. The manager, Carla Hensley, had been terminated, and the younger officer who filed the distorted report was under review. Yet victory felt incomplete. The older officer, Reynolds, had acted quietly, responsibly, but the system remained a web of complicity and caution. Tessa had her shifts restored but remained wary, watching every interaction as if her co-workers might still fold her into silence. Dana's nonprofit had been publicly scrutinized for its indirect complicity, and the board had issued a carefully worded statement expressing regret while avoiding any direct acknowledgement of their role. Mariah's own emotions were tangled, a blend of satisfaction, exhaustion, and grief over how often the truth required sacrifice. She leaned back in her apartment chair, the receipts folder open on her laptop. Every piece of evidence, the reservation email, Tessa's video, her own recordings, the altered police report, was organized, time-stamped, and unassailable. The folder was no longer armor alone. It had become legacy, a blueprint for accountability. Her phone buzzed. It was Tessa. "Tessa, thank you. I feel safer now." Mariah typed back, "You are..." They can't erase what's documented. Outside, the city moved on. Traffic hummed, lights flickered, and life continued as though Mariah's struggle was just another quiet ripple in the vast river of the city. But the ripple mattered. It carried consequences, visible and invisible, immediate and far-reaching. Felix Harper's story had published that morning. It didn't sensationalize, didn't over-dramatize. Instead, it connected the dots. Members-only nights, selective enforcement, power dynamics in donor-driven spaces, and the systemic consequences for Black women challenging that control. The piece sparked discussion, policy reviews, and calls for reform. Not the viral frenzy that might have flattened the issue overnight, but a thoughtful scrutiny that endured. Mara scrolled through comments, reading the messages carefully. Some were supportive, affirming, and analytical. Others questioned her motives or misunderstood the scope of systemic inequity. She let them wash over her, knowing public opinion was never measure of truth. Only documentation and courage were. Dana called later, voice tentative. I owe you an apology," she said. "I tried to protect the organization and ended up asking you to compromise yourself. I see now how wrong that was." Mariah exhaled, the tight knot in her chest loosening fractionally. "Thank you," she said. "It matters that you acknowledge it. But I can't forget the moment of choice." Dana's sigh carried months of tension. "I wish it had been different." "I do too," Mariah admitted. "But it wasn't. All we can do now is learn from it." Her hand drifted over the network map in her folder. Names, dates, events, influence lines, all visible, all documented. The system was exposed, but the human cost remained. Stress, fear, uncertainty. She had won, yes, but at a price that would echo quietly for months, maybe years. Tessa stopped by the apartment the next day. She brought a box of pastries and a timid smile. "I just wanted to say thanks. Not just for the legal side, but for standing there, showing me I could too." Mariah smiled back. "You did more than watch. You documented. You testified. That was courage, Tessa. Don't minimize it." Tessa shrugged. "I was scared." "Scared isn't a weakness," Mariah said. "It's proof you're human. Courage is acting despite it." The conversation drifted to lighter things. Shared books, neighborhood gossip, Jordan's latest marathon training. Yet beneath the levity, Mariah felt the quiet weight of everything that had transpired. Even the poetic justice, the manager's firing, the fines, the policy updates, could not erase the hours of fear, the sleepless nights, the constant vigilance. Justice was not a firework. It was a careful, persistent illumination, slow and methodical. That evening, Mariah sat back at her desk, opening the laptop once more. She labeled a new folder, Lessons Learned. She began writing. Careful notes on systemic bias, institutional failure, bystander complicity, and strategies for documentation and protection. Each note, each reminder, each insight was a map for someone else who might find themselves in a similar situation. Her phone buzzed again. "Felix, follow-up story next week. Could be bigger than this one. Nationwide interest." Mara typed back. "Good. Accuracy over sensationalism. Show patterns, not just one story." She closed the laptop and leaned back, eyes tracing the city skyline. The night lights twinkled like distant stars, indifferent and beautiful. She had navigated walls, threats, betrayal, and scrutiny, and she had survived. The city hadn't changed overnight, but her corner of it now had a small patch of clarity, of accountability. Her mind lingered on the cost, the moments of fear, the betrayals, the exhaustion. She had scars, yes, but also proof that systems could be challenged, truths could be recorded, and voices, when carefully, relentlessly asserted, could not be ignored. The receipts folder glowed on her screen, a silent sentinel, not just a record of wrongdoing, but a blueprint of resilience. Every document, every timestamp, every statement carried the weight of verification and the promise that denial could not overwrite the truth. Mariah's final thought that night was not one of triumph alone. It was of endurance. The fight had left marks, on nerves, on sleep, on trust, but it had also left lessons, legacy, and a foothold for anyone who might come after her. And as she turned off the desk lamp, letting the room fall into quiet shadow, she felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. Justice had been served, but its cost was real. Its proof endured. And Mariah Brooks, though scarred, was unbroken. The morning sun spilled into Mariah's apartment like a promise, warm and insistent, scattering shadows across the floor. She sipped her coffee slowly, letting the silence stretch, a luxury she hadn't allowed herself in weeks. Outside, the city moved with its usual rhythm, traffic humming, sirens distant, people walking with headphones and purpose. Her phone buzzed. A new email. Subject: Policy Reform Advisory. Mara opened it. It was from a coalition of local nonprofits and city officials. They had read Felix's series and her compiled documentation. They wanted her input, her voice, on drafting equitable guest policies and public safety protocols. Her chest tightened. Months ago, she had only wanted to claim her seat in a restaurant. Now, she was being asked to help prevent the same injustice from happening to others. She leaned back, staring at the receipts folder on her laptop. Every screenshot, every timestamp, every witness statement was no longer just a tool for her personal fight. It had become a blueprint for systemic accountability. Her phone buzzed again. Tessa, still getting a few sideways looks at work, but I feel safe now. Thanks to you. Mariah typed back, you're the one who took the stand. Courage isn't mine alone. Jordan called next. You're trending again, he said, voice amused but tender. Not because of drama, but because people see patterns now, not just clips. Mariah laughed softly. Patterns are more enduring than clips. They sat in silence for a moment. The weight of the past weeks pressed on both of them, but it was lighter now, tempered by proof and accountability. The city had shifted too. The restaurant had implemented new policies, posted signage clarifying public and members-only access, and mandated staff training overseen by third-party auditors. Carla Hensley had been replaced, and Evan reassigned out of customer service. Local officials had issued statements reaffirming anti-discrimination standards. Not a perfect change, far from it, but visible, enforceable, documented. Mara took a deep breath and opened a blank document titled, Lessons Learned for the Next Black Woman. She began typing slowly, carefully, every insight, every caution, every strategy for confronting bias and preserving evidence. She wanted someone else, somewhere else, to see a path forward before they were forced to stumble through the same invisible obstacles. Her mind drifted to Dana. They had exchanged a few texts since the board scandal, and Mariah had received a brief apology. Dana admitted she had been caught between loyalty and fear, trying to protect the nonprofit's donors at the expense of truth. Mariah had accepted the apology, but didn't forget. Trust, she realized, could be rebuilt, but some moments of compromise lingered as permanent lessons. Felix's follow-up story was published online that afternoon. This one highlighted broader systemic patterns, restaurants, nonprofits, donors, law enforcement interactions, using Mariah's case as a connective thread. It did not sensationalize. It did not seek clicks. It laid out evidence, timelines, and witness accounts, showing the pattern of selective enforcement and the social and professional costs for those who dare to challenge it. Mara scrolled through the responses. Some were supportive, analytical, and validating. Some questioned her motives or misread the facts. She allowed herself a small smile. Public opinion would always be fractured. Truth, however, remained indivisible. She closed the laptop and stepped to the window. The city stretched wide, infinite in its pulse. Somewhere down the street, a woman entered a restaurant, reservation in hand, unafraid to assert her presence. Mariah imagined her pausing, remembering her fight, knowing the path had been made clearer by someone who refused to disappear. Tessa had stopped by that evening. They baked cookies together, laughed quietly at clumsy attempts at chocolate chips, and shared stories of small victories and remaining frustrations. "It's strange," Tessa said, "to feel both relieved and like you have to stay vigilant." Mariah nodded. "Relief is temporary. Vigilance is permanent." She smiled softly. "But it's necessary, and it's powerful." Later, Mariah went back to her desk and opened a new folder, Legacy. She copied everything, receipts, patterns, correspondence, policy drafts, into it. Every piece of evidence, every observation, every carefully documented injustice was now organized as a resource, not just for herself, but for anyone who might face the same systemic barriers. She paused at the final file, a folder labeled Future. Blank, waiting. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she began to type ideas for workshops, guides for documentation, and strategies for confronting institutional bias without losing yourself. Her phone buzzed one last time before the day ended. A message from an advocacy group she had not yet contacted. "We've seen your work. We want to collaborate." Mariah felt a warmth that had little to do with recognition. This was continuation, connection, change that didn't rely on moment of outrage alone, but on evidence, courage, and relentless documentation. She leaned back, hands folded, eyes scanning the skyline. The lights of the city twinkled like a constellation built for those who refuse to be invisible. Her thoughts returned to the receipts folder, now more than just evidence. It was a monument of resilience, a testament to standing still when the world tried to erase you, and a guide for anyone who would have a stand next. The poetic justice had arrived, not as fire or spectacle, but in the slow, deliberate disintegration of lies and construction of accountability. The manager had faced consequences. The police report had been corrected. Tessa's testimony had mattered. The restaurant's policies were no longer secret tools of exclusion, but the scars remained. Sleep sometimes came with a taste of anxiety. Trust took longer to rebuild. Fear lingered in corners she had long ignored. Yet she had survived, and more than survival, she had created a network, a record, a path for others. Mariah closed her laptop, letting the glow fade. She stepped to the window one last time, the night air warm against her face. Somewhere, someone would walk through a door without hesitation, their presence acknowledged, their voice unthreatened. And for that, she allowed herself to breathe. For the first time in weeks, Mariah Brooks felt finally unerased.